Pakistan is currently experiencing one of the worst economic crises in its history. Despite being home to over 23 crore people, the country's economy has been struggling to keep up with the demands of its rapidly growing population. Inflation rates have soared to 50-year high and millions of people are struggling to afford basic necessities like food and shelter. And to make matters worse, Pakistan's traditional allies seem to have abandoned the country in its hour of need. The United States, China and Saudi Arabia, which were once considered Pakistan's closest friends, are now reluctant to offer any financial assistance. And of course, the reasons for their hesitation are complex. But one factor could be the lack of transparency in Pakistan's economic policies. And also, it is a well-known fact that corruption and mismanagement have plagued the country's political and economic landscape for decades, making it very difficult for potential investors to trust the government. So in this episode, we will take a closer look at the challenges faced by Pakistan's economy and explore the reasons behind its current situation. And we will also examine the various options available to Pakistan to secure the necessary bailout funds and also the possible consequences associated with these choices. We'll also discuss whether there are still any countries willing to offer financial aid to Pakistan and what lessons India can learn from its neighbors' struggles. So sit back, relax and join us on this insightful journey as we try to unravel the mysteries of Pakistan's economic crisis. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay updated with our latest content. So now let's begin, and first let us try to understand how Pakistan gets money and how Pakistan spends money. So imagine having a friend who constantly asks to borrow money, promising to repay you that money next day, but never follows through. If you can relate to this situation or example, then you can understand Pakistan's economy. Every year, Pakistan takes out a loan, but when the interest piles up, there is no money to pay it off. So to deal with this situation, what Pakistan does, they take out another loan to pay off the interest. And now when the time comes to pay interest for this new loan, they take out another loan, and this debt cycle keeps repeating and ultimately hurts the general public in the form of bad inflation where even food becomes unaffordable. So to understand the situation better, let's take a closer look at Pakistan's financials. So Pakistan's total income from various sources is around 17,31,000 crores, but about 28.5% of this income is spent on paying back foreign loans, which amounts to a huge sum of 3,93,000 crores. And also the Pakistan's military receives about 1,50,000 crores. This means that Pakistan spends a total of 40% of its total income only on these two things, which sadly leaves very little money for other important tasks like increasing facilities for the citizens, spending on building infrastructure which is required to attract foreign investors, which can ultimately translate into more jobs and more economic growth. But sadly, Pakistan has very little money for these important tasks because most of their income is already spent on paying back foreign loans and funding the military. And to make the matters worse, Pakistan has become addicted to aid, which is the root of its economic problems. For instance, the International Monetary Fund or the IMF has bailed out Pakistan 23 times, which is a humiliating fact for Pakistan. But one might ask a question, why does the IMF choose to help Pakistan again and again? So it all comes down to two things. Number one, technical review, and number two, staff level review. So a technical review and a staff level reviews are the two important steps in the process of determining whether a country is eligible for financial assistance and under what conditions. So in the technical review, the IMF evaluates the country's economic policies, financial situation, and macroeconomic indicators such as inflation, fiscal deficit, and balance of payments. And then in the staff level review, the IMF staff negotiates with the country's government to develop a reform program that addresses the economic imbalances identified in the technical review. So in simple words, first IMF conducts a technical review and identifies the economic problems in that particular country, and then IMF offers help under the condition that the country's government should utilize this fund to develop a reform program that will solve the economic problems of that country which were identified in the technical review. So sounds like a solid plan from IMF to help the countries going through economic problems. But now some of you might ask, Bharat, if IMF's plan plan is so solid, then why IMF has to bail out Pakistan 23 times again and again? It's a valid question, and the answer to this question is also very simple. When IMF offers financial help to Pakistan and places condition on the government on how to spend this money smartly and effectively, then Pakistan's government agree to all the conditions. But once they take the money, the government of Pakistan spends that money however they want. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, IMF had to bail out Pakistan 23 times. Even if you see the last bailout from IMF, Pakistan ended up doing the same mistake which it had done already 23 times in the past. Because if you see, in 2019, the former Prime Minister Imran Khan secured a $6 billion bailout from the IMF, of which $1.1 billion has already been released. But however, the IMF places strict conditions on the money it lends, and it forbids Pakistan from using the funds for political purpose, which includes subsidies and freebies to gain popularity or win elections. So Imran Khan agreed to IMF's conditions, but once Imran Khan received that money, he exactly did what he was not supposed to do, and with that IMF money he provided subsidies to control prices and boost his popularity. And after Imran Khan, when Shahbaz Sharif took over as Prime Minister, he also continued these schemes, and this caused the IMF to intervene. And now the IMF demands that Pakistan should increase its tax base and keep inflation between 5% to 7%, despite the fact that inflation is currently at 35%. So now Pakistan faces a difficult situation since subsidies must be given to reduce inflation, but the IMF does not approve of such measures. Which means now Pakistan has only two options. Option number one, cancel all the existing subsidies to increase the income, but this will lead to more severe inflation, which will make the public of Pakistan very angry. Then comes option number two, where Pakistan government can continue the existing schemes of providing subsidies and freebies. But this will be the violation of the terms and conditions under which IMF had given the $6 billion bailout package, and if Pakistan's government continues to violate these terms and conditions, then IMF might just withdraw this bailout package. So right now IMF is playing a strategic game with Pakistan by imposing conditions that may be unacceptable to Pakistan, but sooner or later they will have to accept these conditions. So right now time is running out for Pakistan, and they must make a tough choice to save their economy. And now let's talk about the bond of friendship between Pakistan and its allies, which seemed unbreakable until few months back. So to begin with, Pakistan had great friends who had been a constant source of support and financial assistance, such as Saudi Arabia, UAE and Qatar. And you won't believe at the magnitude of their generosity, which is truly remarkable. Take Saudi Arabia for instance, which has extended monetary aid worth a staggering $6.2 billion to Pakistan in 2018 alone. And as if that was not enough, they also granted a loan of $3 billion in oil to the country. Saudi Arabia didn't stop there and continued to provide financial aid in 2021 with another $3 billion loan. In 2022, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia also approved a generous package worth $8 billion to support Pakistan. Qatar has also been a supportive ally by granting Pakistan a loan of $2 billion just last August. Not only Saudi Arabia and Qatar, UAE too has been a helping hand in uplifting Pakistan's small businesses by offering an aid of $200 million in 2018 and followed it up with a loan of $2 billion in the subsequent year of 2019. And these generous helping hands didn't stop there. UAE even made a bold offer to Pakistan where they offered to purchase all the shares of government-owned companies in the country. And this bold offer partially reveals the hidden agenda or the hidden intentions of these so-called best friends of Pakistan. Because the offer made by UAE to purchase all the shares of government-owned companies in Pakistan begs the question, how could a sovereign nation sell off vital assets to another country? And the answer is very simple. It is very difficult for Pakistan to say no, because Pakistan has received a staggering $24.4 billion in loan and gifts from Saudi Arabia, UAE and Qatar in just the past 5 years alone. But however, now of a sudden, all these so-called best friends of Pakistan who had been so generous in the past are now reluctant to offer any financial assistance and has left Pakistan on its own. Even Iran has taken a strict stance against Pakistan regarding the Iran-Pakistan pipeline project, which officially began in the year 1999. And as the part of the agreement, Iran has already completed its side of the pipeline, but Pakistan is yet to follow suit. And Pakistan has been given a deadline of 2024 to complete this pipeline. And now Iran has warned Pakistan to either finish the construction of this pipeline by 2024 or face a hefty fine of $18 billion. So right now the situation is that all the closest allies of Pakistan seem to disappear one by one and are reluctant to provide any kind of financial support to Pakistan in such a dire situation. But there is another friend of Pakistan who still poses to be a loyal friend, and that is China. And now many of you might be thinking that why China is being so generous in helping Pakistan. But wait a minute, what if I tell you, in reality China is actually not helping Pakistan, but instead China is helping itself by helping Pakistan. Let me explain how. So China has been the biggest friend for Pakistan because China has generously given big loans to Pakistan. In terms of figures, Pakistan has received a loan of around $30 billion from China. And a significant part of this loan has been allocated to the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor or the CPEC project. But however, China's shrewdness or cunningness lies in the fact that it has imposed certain conditions on the loans. And the conditions placed by the Chinese on these loans given to Pakistan will actually show you how China is helping itself by fooling Pakistan. So according to the conditions on the loan, all the CPEC contracts must be awarded to Chinese firms or Chinese companies, and only Chinese workers are allowed to work on these projects. Furthermore, Pakistan is required to keep all the money used for CPEC in a Chinese bank. In simple words, the loan given by China to Pakistan will make profits for Chinese companies, will create jobs for Chinese people, and will give money to Chinese banks. And what is Pakistan doing in this project? They are doing nothing but paying interest on the loan which they had taken from China. So in short, China is eating away Pakistan's economy and using Pakistan for its own benefit. And this is not only bad for Pakistan, but it is also bad for India. Because if China's presence increases in Pakistan, then it might use it to its advantage to target India in the future. But even though the friends of Pakistan deserve a slow clap, but still some of you might ask that what is the problem? Because every friend of Pakistan was getting what they want by helping Pakistan. But now of a sudden what changed, because of which all the so-called friends of Pakistan are reluctant to provide any financial support and are disappearing from the scene one by one. To know that, you have to understand the countries that have previously helped Pakistan did so because of three broad reasons. Reason number one, on humanitarian grounds like the International Monetary Fund or the IMF, which helped Pakistan only to promote regional stability and prevent civil war. Reason number two, because of common interest shared by Muslim countries such as Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey, UAE and Iran, who wanted to help their brothers. And of course, some countries had hidden agenda, but most of the countries wanted to help on brotherhood grounds. And then comes reason number three, which is profits. Like China invested in Pakistan's economy only to make profits and create more jobs for Chinese people. So these were the three reasons because of which Pakistan was receiving help. But now these three reasons are disappearing. Because if you see, after pandemic, China has been facing economic downturns, because of which China has now slowed down its CPEC operations in Pakistan, which has in turn affected its investments in Pakistan. And then if you talk about Turkey and Iran, they no longer trust Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia is very upset with Pakistan. Because if you see, Pakistan attempted to form an alliance with Qatar, Turkey and Malaysia, but this alliance was unsuccessful as Saudi Arabia was not happy about it. And because of which recently Saudi Arabia has warned Pakistan to fulfill its promise before taking any further loans. And this warning from Saudi Arabia comes after Pakistan failed to fulfill its previous commitments. Not just Saudi Arabia, even the International Monetary Fund or the IMF is now hesitating to provide loans to Pakistan. In contrast, the IMF approved a loan of $15.6 billion for Ukraine, while the US printed $300 billion overnight to save the Silicon Valley Bank, which actually makes it very clear that the IMF and the Western countries have different priorities. And sadly, struggling countries like Pakistan and Sri Lanka do not fall under their priorities. And these are the reasons why Pakistan is right now going through a severe economic crisis, because of which the inflation or the महंगाई is so high that people are not even able to afford basic necessities like food and shelter. And to make matters worse, Pakistan's traditional allies like the United States, China and Saudi Arabia seem to have abandoned the country in its hour of need. And now, after understanding how Pakistan arrived at this situation, let's see what India can learn from Pakistan. The first lesson that India can learn is that there are no free gifts in the world. Every country that comes to help has an agenda. And looking at the economic condition of Pakistan, we should not laugh, but instead focus on improving our own economy. Because if you see, India is currently facing a budget deficit and we are short of money. We have to pay interest on loans, which takes up a large part of our budget, leaving less money for development. We must learn to break the cycle of poverty and avoid being stuck in the same situation as Pakistan. And most importantly, we need to learn that temporary solutions like subsidies and freebies are not going to help reduce poverty. And instead of giving freebies and subsidies, we need to focus on increasing our income and focus on improving our manufacturing sector, which will actually bring money into India. And most importantly, we need to keep our money in India and prevent it from going out of the country. So it is very essential to learn from others' mistakes, and we should not depend on others for help, so that India can become self-reliant and move forward on its own. So that's it for today, guys. If you found this video informative, then don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you in another informative video. Until then, this is your friend Bharat Shankar signing off.